Alright, welcome back everybody. Let's talk more about beholders today, and specifically the huge number of variations and also beholder kin, those creatures that are similar to them. So there are dozens upon dozens of these. You search the internet, seems like you just find an almost endless number, and some we may have even created ourselves for our own campaigns. So let's just look at a few of the beholder types that you may have seen before, some you may not. Now, in spite of their hatred of all diversity, including themselves, beholders come in a huge variety of forms. The first one right here is a blood-kissed beholder. The flesh of a blood-kissed beholder's body has been twisted by necrotic energy until it barely resembles its living form. At the end of each stalk is a toothed mouth used to drain blood. This undead beholder sucks its prey dry of blood with its eye tentacles. A blood-kissed beholder is a kind of undead vampiric-like beholder whose eye stalks have mutated into mouths that allow it to drain the blood of its victims. The next one right here, the Death Tyrant, you've probably seen before. These are undead beholders, sort of similar to a zombie. On rare occasions, a beholder's sleeping mind will drift to places beyond its normal madness, imagining a reality in which it exists beyond death. When such dreams take hold, a beholder can transform, its flesh falling away to leave a death tyrant behind. This monster possesses the cunning and much of the magic it had in life, but it's fueled by the power of undeath. A death tyrant appears as a massive naked skull with a pinpoint of red light gleaming in its hollow eye socket. With its eye stalks rotted away, 10 spectral eyes hover above the creature and glare in all directions. This beholder can use its central eye in a more sinister way than others. The Death Tyrant can transform former slaves and enemies into undead servants. Zombies created by Death Tyrant are used and discarded as needed. They stand guard at the entrances to the Death Tyrant's lair or guard its treasure vaults. Next here we have the Elder Orb. Elder Orbs are beholders who over time lose their eyesight and are thus unable to cast beholder rays, but they compensate by casting mage spells like any other mage would do. They can also use an anti-magic ray. These beholders are born with amazing long life and might be immortal. Elder orbs somehow lose their eyes over time and are unable to regenerate them. In place of those, they gain wizardly powers instead. They're extremely intelligent, even by beholder standards. Elder orbs are generally the counselors or leaders of the beholder faction they live in. It is believed that elder orb brains could be used to create great spells and magical items. This would make them extremely valuable. Next here we have the Eye of Flame, an unusually docile form of the beholder whose members, while still malevolent, are willing to serve beneath more powerful beholders. The Eye of Flame's central eye renders those caught within its gaze vulnerable to fire and prone to catching on fire. After sustaining serious damage or after death, the inner fire of an Eye of Flame erupts and bursts, damaging all those around it. Unlike normal beholders, they have only 3 eye ray types, despite possessing 10 stalks. They can only fire 2 rays at once and have to use their fiery rays while they attack, although this is usually not a problem. Besides a heat ray, they also possess the beholder's fear and telekinetic rays. Fifth right here we have the Eye of Frost. The Eye of Frost is a heartless predator that hunts in frozen climates where beholders usually don't reside. Normally the Eye of Frost is hidden thanks to its color that makes it blend with its polar environment. When the beholder encounters prey, it often attacks with surprise. In combat, the beholder points its slowing cone, which comes out from its central eye, to the target that seems most dangerous to it. In addition, it can also cast 2 of its 3 eye ray attacks at random. The 3 rays it possesses are Cold Ray, Telekinetic Ray, and Innervation. Number 6 right here is the Eye of Shadow, or the Shadow Beholder. Eyes of Shadow are beholders that have been warped by too much time being spent in the tangled paths that lead to the Shadowfell. I see this as a beholder that lost its way in the Shadowfell and eventually got sucked in. It's basically the same backstory you see with shadow dragons. I imagine that beholders don't do well in the Shadowfell. Although they're insanely paranoid and xenophobic, they'll become even more so. Once you add in the negative environment of the plane of shadow, you've got one crazy creature. The large central eye creates a cone of shadow which causes necrotic damage to all those caught within it. The smaller eyes can cast blindness, curse, fear, slowing, enervation, banishing, telekinetic, strength draining, sickness, and death. Number 7 here is the Gawker. The Gawker's central eye is different from others. It has a slowing gaze. When a creature can see the Gawker's central eye, the observing creature will have its speed reduced. The Gawker shoots one of its following magical eye rays at random, choosing one target it can see. It has a charm ray, paralyzing, fire, telekinetic, enervation, and petrification. The Gawker also has another very unusual ability that's often seen in creatures like an ooze. It has the ability to split. When a Gawker is struck by lightning or say the slashing damage of a sword, it can split into 2 new Gawkers. Number 8 right here is the Eyesore. The Eyesore is the result of a beholder dreaming that its enemies will sneak up on it and destroy it. And remember, they are more paranoid than any creature anywhere. The Eyesore is nothing but a floating ball of eyes. It has no mouth, no central eye, no eye stalks. Instead of rays, the Eyesore creates powerful auras to ward off its foes and protect itself. Don't let their ugly appearance fool you, though. They're just as malicious and terrible as the rest of their beholder kin, if not more. The Eyesore uses 2 of the following magical auras at will. There's a charm aura, a paralyzing, sickening, fear, slowing, psychic wave, telekinetic field, healing aura, invulnerability, and also flame. Number 9 here is the Onlooker. The Onlooker targets a humanoid it can see and charms the Onlooker. The charmed target regards the Onlooker as a trusted friend to be obeyed and protected. Although the target isn't under the Onlooker's control, it takes the Onlooker's request or actions in the most favorable way it can, and it is a willing target for the Onlooker's conversion ray attack. Now, its eye rays are paralyzing, wounding, confusing, and conversion. The conversion ray will cause a targeted creature's head to tear away from its body, and that head becomes a new Onlooker. That's an interesting way to make a new beholder right there. Number 10 is the Ghost Beholder. A beholder that's died and risen as a ghost. That's a bad combination right there. These may rise in the form of doom spheres whose eye stalk rays take on a more chilling and necromantic property. Number 11 here is the Goth. Goths, sometimes referred to as lesser beholders or night eyes, are a type of beholder kin that feed on magic as well as flesh. They'll prey on anything weaker than themselves and often attack adventurers just to acquire their wealth. A Goth floating body is around 4 to 6 feet wide in diameter. They have 6 eye stalks along with 4 feeding tendrils that sprout from the lower half of its body. The most obvious feature is its central eye, which is surrounded by a ridge of flesh and 10 to 15 small normal eyes used for sight. Rather than an anti-magic cone, the central eye will mentally stun those looking at it. Now, they would intentionally draw attention to that eye when attacking, so they can capitalize on this ability. The rays of its 6 eye stalks have effects similar to the spells: dispel magic, inflict moderate wounds, ray of exhaustion, scorching ray, sleep, or paralysis. Their most unique eye ray is their devour magic ray. This allows them to sap away the power of magical items. This would temporarily neutralize magical items and could drain the charges of wands and rods. 12 here, which we see in the top left corner of this picture here, is the Hive Mother, also known as Ultimate Tyrants, an enormously powerful variant of Beholder with the capacity to stun nearby enemies, as well as a greater range of eye ray abilities is what we'll find. Hive Mothers have the ability to magically dominate other Beholders they encounter. These Beholders are significantly larger and of genius intelligence. Despite the nomenclature, Hive Mothers are asexual and genderless, so they're not actually spawning beholders as the name might appear. They are fanatical and have natural resistance to magic. Hive Mothers have enormous mouths for devouring foes. Some retain the signature eye rays that are individually capable of devastating magical attacks, but others have been documented without the stalks, instead having the eyes embedded in its upper body. 13 right here is one called the Director. Directors resemble beholders, but their central eye is going to be a bit smaller. They possess only 6 small eyes on retractable eye stalks, and these eyes have magic missile, burning hands, wall of ice, slow, innervation, and improved phantasmal force. A director's central eye has the power of deflection. Directors have a fanged mouth below the central eye and possess 3 clawed sensory tendrils on their ventral surface. These tendrils are used to cling to a mount and link with its limited mind ability. A director is often found dwelling in a beholder community, led by a hive mother or an observer. A director uses 3 clawed tentacles to bind to monstrous vermin mounts. They are social warrior beholders and breed specialized mounts to ride. They can mind link to them, and that allows them to control them. So that's a very interesting type of beholder there. 14 we have right here is the Overseer. Overseers are among the most dangerous of the beholder kin, rivaling the power of a hive mother. An overseer resembles nothing more than a large mass of flesh or a tree with mouths on its trunk and eyes on its branches. Overseers possess power similar to that of a hive mother and can control the actions of 5 to 10 standard beholders or 5 to 20 beholder kin. However, overseers could only control creatures of the same type. Thus, one overseer could control just death kisses or just directors, but not a combination of them. So many other beholders could be found being controlled by this one here. Number 15 is the Gazer. Gazers, also known as eyeballs, are tiny, unintelligent beholder kin who follow their creator like an aggressive pet, a fact that beholders consider amusing. They often serve as familiars for evil spellcasters, serving under beholders also. Gazers resemble the beholder who dreamed them into being, with only minor differences. They possess only 4 eye stalks rather than 10, and are only about 8 inches across, so they're really small. Gazers will follow their creators around like aggressive puppies, stalking their lairs looking for vermin to kill. They're not violent towards others like them, and they're actually capable of cooperation. They could not be tamed by other people, but they will violently fling people away who do try and touch them. They prey on, and they are bullies for any creature weaker than them. Wild gazers, after losing or being driven off by their creators, are territorial nuisances who hunt for small game in their area. Larger creatures who encounter their territory are often pestered and bothered until they leave, although they would flee if the little guys were challenged. On the rare occasion gazers work together in a pack, they can team up against larger creatures and become much more dangerous. 16 right here is the Gouger. Gougers were beholder kin created to combat beholders. Although they possess 10 eye stalks, the Gougers have no magical functions. The central eye does still maintain the anti-magic property. They can fly faster than a normal beholder, and it has 4 small legs that hang below its body. The biggest power of the Gouger is its long pointed tongue. The tongue can neutralize the magical abilities of other beholders' eye stalks, and they are known to be ruthless carnivores. 17 right here is the Observer. The Observer is a larger than average beholder kin with a hard chitinous skin, mottled skin-like structure in shades of pink or purple. It possesses 6 eye stalks, 3 central eyes evenly spaced around the equator, and 3 small mouths, 1 below each central eye. The Observer's mouths were not what they appear to be. Each one was actually a sucker attached to the end of a 5-foot tentacle. The creature normally withdraws these tentacles so that the sucker rested flush against the body. So they keep those suckers flush against them. These sucker mouths could extend to attack nearby targets, and like the death kiss beholder, they drain blood. The Observer, unlike many beholder kin, is not often malicious. However, the highly intelligent creature lacked any sort of empathy. Observers engaged in an almost obsessive pursuit of knowledge. They would remorselessly eliminate anyone or anything that stood in the way of their research. 18 here is the spectator. Spectators are extraplanar beholderkin native to the clockwork nirvana of mechanists. The four-eyed entities are philosophical creatures often summoned to serve as watchful guardians. Spectators are vigilant and trustworthy and can be relied upon to protect items in all but the most dire situations. Somewhat mild and even-tempered, they're even known to form friendships with other creatures, a trait that no other beholderkin or true beholder has ever displayed. Their main eye could turn spells back at the caster so long as they're in the nearby area and shooting at its face. The four eye stalks of a spectator could cause effects like the spells paralyze, inflict moderate wounds, fear, and confusion. They're capable of creating enough food and water to sustain themselves for a day, every day, meaning that they would never have to go hungry, and they can also plane shift once a day. Number 19 here is the Eye of the Deep. The Eye of the Deep is sometimes called the Sea Holder because it is a water-dwelling relative of the beholder covered with a reddish lobster-like chitinous surface. An Eye of the Deep possesses two antennae with eyes on their ends and two arms ending in lobster-like claws, features that replace the usual beholder eye stalks. They're spherical, often 9 feet wide, and may weigh as much as 6,000 pounds. An Eye of the Deep is unique in that by combining their eye rays, they could achieve a special effect. When both eye rays are working together, they can craft incredible illusions, creating moving three-dimensional images. As they grow, they get more skilled. They can create and manipulate the images without even looking at them. They would use this ability to lure in unsuspecting survivors of shipwrecks before hitting them with their second most iconic ability. An Eye of the Deep can also generate a bright white flash that stuns a target for up to a minute, and it will also blind them for twice that long. Individually, their eye rays are capable of preventing an opponent from moving, with one being more potent than the other. Some were known to have a second eye ray that generates a wave of cold. The Eye of the Deep are extremely rare monsters because they can only survive at very deep depths below the sea. If they were to go up too high, the inner gases in their body would expand and their bodies would actually explode. What a picture that would be. Number 20 right here are the Beholder Mages. A beholder who wished to learn the art of arcana spellcasting beyond the simple use of its innate powers faces a number of limitations, the great of which being its own anti-magic eyesight. However, some beholders were known to blind their own central eye in order to study wizardry, becoming a beholder mage. The beholder then uses its gouged out eye as a spellcasting focus and is able to cast spells by wiggling and writhing its eye stalks. To learn spells of a new level, a beholder mage has to permanently sacrifice the innate power of one of its eye stalks to dedicate to that new level. Doing this not only grants it access to more powerful spells, but also negates the need for material components. Furthermore, beholder mages are so innately gifted with magic that they can instantly cast spells with each eye stalk that's been dedicated to their arcane studies. In such cases, they handle the various conflicting verbal components by singing a complicated spellcasting song. So they found their way around some of those problems. 21 and 22 are illustrated right here, the first one being the Orbis. The Orbis is either a genetically bred or a stunted, immature form of the standard beholder. Not sure. It is only found in a space aboard the Tyrant ships in the Spelljammer campaign. 22 right here, the larger, shown as an Aster Eater. These giant beholder kin are also from the Spelljammer campaign, living in outer space. The Aster Eater have none of the intelligence or magical abilities of normal beholders. In appearance, the Aster Eater resembles a large round boulder with a big central eye and a large mouth filled with pointed teeth. The skin of the creature is virtually identical in appearance and consistency to a rock. They speak their own language, and they also have the language of beholders and the common tongue. Number 23 right here is the Lensman. A Lensman has one eye set in the chest of its five-limbed, almost starfish-shaped humanoid body. Beneath the eye is a leering, toothy mouth. 4 of the 5 limbs end in 3-fingered, 2-thumbed, clawed hands. The 5th limb atop the body is a prehensile, whip-like tentacle. Its chitin is soft, and there are many short, fly-like hairs on its body. Lensmen are the only kin to wear any sort of clothing, and it may be used to hold tools and weapons. Their preferred weapons are double-headed pole arms. Their role in beholder society is that of menial labor, and they are treated as semi-mindless drones. Few lensmen ever strive above that level, and advanced ones are very rare. Similar to a beholder, a lensman's eye has power. Their eye can have one of 6 following powers, although some come in pairs: remove fear, scare, rage, cure moderate wounds, dispel magic, tongues, minor image, and resist energy. Number 24 is the Kesharin, an undead beholder that can pass on a rotting disease which killed it. This sounds a bit mummy-like in its way, and it's also very rotting in appearance. 25 is the Celestial Beholder. These are large, celestial, lawful good beholders. The central eye emits a blessed cone of magic. 2 of the eye rays are very different. One casts a healing ray, and the other a radiant ray. 26 is a Watcher. Cowardly creatures by nature, Watchers are semi-sentient beholder kin. They are used as scouts, and as the name suggests, Watchers are the more intelligent kin name. A Watcher appears as a 6-foot diameter sphere with 3 central eyes on the ventral side of the orb. There's a long barbed tentacle which extends from just beyond the Watcher's mouth, and on the dorsal side is a ring of 6 eye spots in a compound eye. 27 is the Gorbel. Gorbel are wild, clawed beholder kin, lacking magic, but with the nasty habit of exploding when they're attacked. 28 is the Mind Witness. The Mind Witness is a beholder who is part Mind Flayer. Mind Witnesses are created when a beholder is stunned and placed in a brine pool. At that time, a Mind Flayer inserts one of its tadpoles into the beholder, and this creature develops. 29 is an Examiner, which you can see down at the bottom left there. Examiners are scholars and clerks involved in spell and magical item enhancement, research, and creation. They can use any artifact or tool as well as humans, and they can wield up to 4 items at a time. An Examiner is a beholder kin that's a 4-foot diameter sphere with no central eye and only 4 small eyes, each at the end of an antenna mounted atop the sphere. They have one small lamprey-like mouth on their ventral surface. The mouth is surrounded by 4 multi-jointed limbs ending in gripper pads. An Examiner's true strength lies in their talent with manipulating objects, both mundane and magical, and their ability to wield magical items. Most Examiners maintain a collection of magical wands which they use when needed in combat. Examiners have 4 eye stalks which use enlarge or reduce, identify or legend lore, transmute form, and spell reflection. So those are just a few of the different beholders and beholder kins that you can find. And there are many more out there. I've even created a beholder of my own, and I bet others out there have too. There must be a dozen or more out there, making these the most diverse monsters in D&D. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.